Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today and I worked an amazing season together in Club Med Playa Blanca in 96-97. His first season was in Club Med Huatuco in January of 96 as Polyvalent Sport. He then went to Punta Cana for the summer of 96 as an Arch Regio. Fun fact, this was Kevin Batt's first season as a Chief of Village. My guest later became an animator and Chief of Animation. He went back to Playa in 98-99 for a second time in what he thought was going to be his last season when he left. He then went back to Montreal, then Vancouver, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, what he did in between. Because in summer 2013, he found his way back to Club Med at Punta Cana as Polyglot Animation, almost 14 years later after he had stopped. Originally from my hometown of Montreal, but now this lucky son of a gun is living in the Sunshine State. Please help me welcome Emmanuel Azuelos. Hey, Emmanuel, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Greg. Thank you so much. It's good to hear from you.
Yes, I mean, we're recording this on March 1st. We were kind enough to share photos with each other this morning of our views of, what we're looking at. And yours probably beat mine because you're in Florida. And we in Montreal got dumped on last night. I don't know if you heard, but
I hear.
We're still digging out. So how are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you so much. It's good. It's good to hear what you do. I love what you do. It brings me back. Some good reminiscing every time I hear a podcast from you.
Well, I'm so happy. Like, I'm really happy when I get someone from Playa Blanca, because you probably thought the same way. That was a special time, special season.
It was a hell of a season. Definitely one of the best.
We got lucky there, my friend.
Oh yeah. I know.
All right. So, you know how we do it here. If you could take me back in time a bit to what you were doing before Club Med, like were you going to school, working, and then how did you first hear about Club Med?
It's an interesting story. My parents are huge fans of Club Med, right? They've been going to Club Med since the, I guess, late 70s or early 80s. They never took us at the time because I don't think mini club was a popular thing. So they used to send us to winter camp and stuff like that while they would go on these trips. That's kind of how I heard about it and how I heard about the atmosphere and the ambiance.
Excuse me one second, Emmanuel. I've never heard the term. I've heard the term summer camp. I never heard winter camp. That sounds just awful when your parents are going to the Caribbean. Was it as awful as I'm thinking?
It's a very Canadian thing, but it was actually a lot of fun. It was usually 2 weeks in a chalet with a group of kids about your age, and they do a bunch of activities in the snow and snowshoeing and skiing, treasure hunts, ice skating, snowball fights, a bunch of stuff like that.
Okay. And, it does sound like a little kind of like Club Med, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, sorry, I never heard that term before. Okay, please continue.
So I was already in that element. So yeah, I did a few of those, and then it just so happened that in much later in time, when I was I had finished high school, I had already started CGIP, which is basically kind of like junior college for those who are not familiar with the Quebec system. And I had done my first year and a half. And then it was again December, and my parents had gone to a trip to Huatuco. And when they were there, they met Miriam. And they just had a blast, because when my parents go, it's usually for at least 2 weeks. I can't remember exactly if they went for 2 or 3 weeks. But they got very friendly with Miriam because they spoke about Israel and Morocco, and she had done a few seasons there. And I don't know how it came up, but at some point my parents said, I think my son would be great for this. And so I guess she said, yeah, bring him over. I'll put him somewhere. We'll have a position for him. And that's kind of how it kicked off. And when they got back, obviously in the middle of the winter, I think it was probably the end of January, or I had just celebrated my birthday, and cold winters in Montreal. And what sounds better than a nice little tropical trip for me at that age? I was about I just turned 19 at the time. So it was exciting, and they told me, we were just in Huatuco, and Miriam wants you to go. And I'm like, let's do it. I'm down. Packed up everything and did my own trip to there, and then once once I got there, it was just the friendliest experience I've had because everyone was super sweet. I kind of felt like a GM at first because I got there, I was greeted. They sent me to my room where I was going to stay, and then they said, "Listen, it's your first day. Get familiar with the village, walk around, see what it's about." And I did just that. First we had lunch, so I went to the cafe, the restaurant, the buffet, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I'm eating, and then I'm meeting some people already. Then I kind of walk around the beach because, as a Canadian leaving the winter, the first thing you want to see is the beach. You want to get some waves, you want to get some sand right between your toes, and I got there and I saw this trip. One of the beach geos like, hey, you wanna go on a kayak ride? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I want a kayak ride. I got on a kayak and I just paddle like crazy. I'll never forget this moment because I'm paddling like crazy, and then I'm like just in the middle of the ocean, total silence, and I'm reminiscing in Canada how they're scraping ice on their windshields and trying to push the car out of the snow, and I'm like, this is heaven. This is just too good to be true. If it's the dream, I don't want to wake up right now. That's kind of that's where I got that first feeling, which I loved.
It was very life as it should be. It sounds.
Oh my God, it was gold. Like it was too good to be true. I'm like, is this really happening? Am I really here at this time right now? It's perfect.
At what point did they tell you what you were going to be doing? I mean, you said polyvalent sport, but were you doing a lot of sports in Montreal?
So I guess at the time, Miriam kind of needed somebody in all of these different departments, and I guess she wanted to test me out. It's like what he's going to be good at, or where did they need me the most. And so the first position I held was géoplage, right? So I went to the beach. I guess because they figured out I knew how to kayak, so that's a good start. So I started doing that, and then pulling in the boats and that workout. I was young, I was healthy, it was I could handle the sun, so I loved that position. It was very like I needed a lot of strength for it because you're pulling sailboats and kayaks. They had at the time those what do they call those bogies? No, those
Hobie,
little
Hobie cats.
Hobie cats. I was pulling in the Hobie cats. I even they gave me a lesson on how to teach windsurfing, which was odd because I barely knew how to windsurf, but I was giving lessons, trying to but I had always some assistance, so I'm like showing people on how to stand and how to pull up the sail, and it was a fun experience, and I can't remember exactly, but it was definitely a couple of weeks, and I remember the chief of beach's name. It was Frédéric. Can't remember. Obviously, there's no last names, but I do remember that at some point we used to introduce him in some pool show as Frédéric Frédéricson. So it was a French guy with blonde, long hair, total surfer dude, and the whole team was French. Actually, it was a really great experience working on the beach.
Was the chief of sport French too? Do you recall the chief of sports?
I can't recall who chief of sport.
Well, it's far back. This was '96, so that's
it was my first. Like I'm so overwhelmed with everything, but
yeah.
If I see his picture or you tell me his name, it might recall. But right now, no, I can't. Maybe fifth. Was it possible that it was fifth? It's possible. But I remember meeting fifth. I don't remember if it was in Punta Cana before I met Kevin Batt or
okay.
I don't know. It was one of those. But yeah, fun time on the beach, and then they moved me.
Okay. you never cracked the windsurfing in one day, right? Okay.
No. But actually, I did. I got better at it over there, definitely. But
yeah.
and then those were some really good times. And then they moved me to snorkeling, and handing over masks and fins. And again, a really great geo I worked with there. I can't remember the name, but I'm sure Christy would remember. I think his name was. I don't want to say Scott, but I'm thinking maybe Scott or Brian or something like that. But this guy, also super cool guy. And I guess he would do like little snorkeling lessons. So I would stay in the snorkeling shack so I could still hand out because he was alone at that point. And I guess when he's given a lesson, if somebody shows up, they have to wait at the shack. So I was kind of like the spare to go help him. I was the spare Geo, basically. I was like, I'm going to put this guy here, fill in these gaps. And it was great because I got to learn all of these different positions at Club Med.
Did Miriam stick you in any shows?
Well, yeah, I started getting interested in that because I loved the stage at that point. And younger, I had done a couple of these school fashion shows, and I used to do these impressions on stage. They weren't very polite, but I used to love Andrew Dice Clay, so I used to do.
Oh boy. Okay.
I used to get up and do a couple of jokes from Andrew Dice Clay until I get kicked off the stage, obviously.
Okay. Yeah. People don't appreciate dirty limericks anymore, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, those days are
Oh,
over. Yeah, hey, oh, what's going on? The nursery rhymes, all that.
well, didn't you also like Michel Courtemanche from
Oh yes,
Quebec?
definitely. That was another thing I used to like. I had a friend in Montreal who used to do a great impression of him, and it kind of inspired me to do the same. I love that drummer act, and that was actually my first solo show at Club Med, because I basically auditioned for, oh man, well, this guy I won't remember. I mean I won't forget. His name was Paul. I don't know if any, because I've never seen him after. Paul was this big. I mean, I'm pretty tall, but this guy was, I think he was like 6'6", big guy from Colorado with a heavy voice.
Yeah, it
Great.
sounds like Paul Langus. I did my chief of sports stage with him. Yeah,
There,
he's
Paul
very
Lang.
tall. Yeah.
Yes, and very great, like a DJ voice. Like he was awesome on the microphone, and I'll never forget him doing the Green Giant. That was the first time I that he would just paint himself in green and he would just throw peas at everybody in the restaurant. Like, eat your peas!
Oh, really?
Eat your peas!
Oh my God, I've never heard that. That is
Right.
hysterical. Okay.
The Jolly Green Giant. It was just not so jolly. It was hilarious. And so I did. He's like, "Show me what you got," And I got on stage and I put on this that act, the drummer act from Michel Courtemanche. It was kind of hard to get the audio because nobody had it at the time. So I only had the video of him, and we basically edited out the video and just took the audio from it. And I followed on the drummer act, and it's basically a miming act, and it had a huge success. And then they decided to put me in like almost every show. Started doing dancing, the comedies. I used to do even some those random shows they do at the pool or around the village, les passages and stuff like that. So yeah, Paul was definitely a great inspiration for me starting the performing world.
Okay. Wow. It's a pretty good first season so far.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. And then from there,
yes,
they moved me to archery.
Oh, okay.
They needed me there. The Geo there, his name was Aaron, and he showed me basically, how to give lessons and to be to especially for the kids, because they did have. I don't think they had mini club, but I'm pretty sure they had the teen club. It was kind of like a family village, but it was like older kids. And we would do that. We'd teach them archery. And I figured it was the easiest thing to learn on the spot. And I finished that season there. Basically that half season, because I kind of came in the middle of it. But and then that was it. Had a great time there, met great people, loved the restaurants, because they had a Moroccan restaurant there at the time. And since my parents are from Morocco, it felt like home. They have couscous here. I'm like, I'm having couscous in Mexico. What is going on? And and then they have this very Moroccan soup called la harira. We call it like that.
Yes.
And or in when you write it on the little note, it said harira. But it was funny to see this Moroccan restaurant and all the other. And I always remember, I think it was, I don't know, there was a busy holiday when the village was so packed that Geos couldn't even eat in the restaurant at the time. So we used to have to go get our food and then go to the TV room, because there was this in the Club Med back in the day. There was no TVs in your room. We had one TV room. And so all the Geos would go to the TV room, they eat their dinner, and the only channel that's playing in that TV room was the news, right? It was CNN all day, and it was just so boring. But we were there watching TV, we're eating, and all the geos are cracking jokes. The highlight of that channel was the commercials. Every time a commercial came on, it was just ranting on the commercial. Look at this guy and look at that guy, and it was just funny times. Cool little souvenirs I got from Huatulco.
Ace, very nice.
Yeah.
And then you head out to, because you got so good at archery, they send you to Punta Cana with another Montreal guy, Kevin Badd's first season, Chiva Village. What do you remember about that season?
Well, that was interesting because I was going to finally get my first full season contract, and I remember at the time, I believe it was Linda Powell or Powellists or something like that. No, she was the one who basically sent us the all the details, and I loved that. So I got ready, and I'm like, all right, man, let's do some archery, And I got there. I think I got there a little early, which was great because it gave me time to prepare. And so the previous team was still there. And I believe at the time it was Letellier Gagnon, Jean Letellier Gagnon, something like that.
Yeah, another Montreal guy.
Yeah, so I caught
Pierre Letellier Gagnon.
Pierre Letellier Gagnon, that's correct. So I barely knew him because they were basically on their way out. And this is where I think I met Fifth or not. I can't remember. But and there was also another chief of sports named Guto, which was Brazilian guy. Yeah, he was also pretty funny. And anyway, so I got there, and obviously there was already an archery GO that was there. Now this guy was amazing. I wish I remember his name. Normand. I don't know. He was a real like Québécois, like the lac Saint-Jean. He had the accent where you don't even pronounce the J's. Hey, ils sont-tu venus les rennes le matin là? Ils sont où les rennes? And I couldn't get used to it. It was just hilarious to me. But this guy was an archery expert, man. So he really gave me the truth. So I learned a little bit in Huatulco, but when I got to this guy, because I think he used to hunt, so he taught me all these little techniques on really how to aim, and I became a much better archer because of this guy. And once he left, that's it. I was in charge of the archery field, and obviously Punta Cana being a family village, I did a lot of lessons to the kids. And me and my little entertainment skills, even my archery lesson was basically a comedy act. I was trying to keep it professional, but I was just trying to make them laugh, because if you don't make the kids laugh every once in a while, they won't pay attention to you. So it was going over the safety on how to load the arrow and how you should be pointing and don't do this, and try to get them cracking up a little bit. And that's that was my archery season. Fun time.
And I guess you got a choreographer approached you to start getting you in the shows, right? Were you a good dancer in Montreal before Clement?
Not really. I mean, I did used to dance like for fun, like when breakdancing was in. I was a big fan of that. I had a couple of friends of mine. We used to start breakdancing in some parties, and then we'd start getting invited to parties to come break. Oh, can you come so you can do a little Michael Jackson and do some breakdancing? So I used to do a lot of that when I was a kid, and how my parents are like, "Oh, show them! You got to show them the Michael Jackson that you do." So, and I guess I was pretty good at that age doing the Michael Jackson moves. We're big fans.
And what would you think of Kevin Batt's first season in CDV? He probably nailed it right off the gate, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah, he was amazing. I mean, I came in again I'm still a beginner. I just started, but I have now a little bit of experience from before. But it was a great way. It was a great way to start, because we're all new at this, so we're all trying to make it better. And I believe the animation was Eric Goldberg. Love that guy.
Goldberg was there.
Oh nice. Yeah, for sure. We had an amazing team. Yeah. And the chief of sports after that was Patrick. I can't remember. Not Patrick Serva, but another Patrick, which I think he went to the Bahamas after. French dude. Super cool guy as well. And, I started performing, and I always got a little nervous when we had to do our archery demo, because we had to put these balloons in
Oh,
the pool.
the sports demo.
The sports demo.
That's
The
right.
sports
Oh boy.
demo.
Yeah. So you have a spotlight on you, 600 people watching you miss a big balloon in the pool, right?
Yeah, yeah, in the water.
Yeah.
So it's floating there. But I got it a couple times, and yeah, it was good times. We did a lot of new stuff for me there, and it was great. Plus, I was in the Dominican Republic, which was a first for me too. So a lot of fun.
Then here's where we meet. You go to Playa. So near the end of 96, we find
Right?
ourselves in Playa, Chief of Village Lulu. And you mentioned Patrick Serva. He was our Chief of Sports.
Yeah.
I think he was a choreographer before. If you didn't know that, then you knew it when you saw him on stage. Okay.
Mhm.
The cat could dance. And yeah, we had a great team. And there also was an honorary member of that team, because it's not often I get to talk about Uncle Larry, but I remember
Oh yeah.
meeting Uncle Larry on my one of my first nights. He had a t-shirt on that said "Get Horizontal" with Uncle Larry, and it had like a circus photo of him, because horizontal bar. So what did you make? Like, he's probably the best known character I've ever met in Club Med. What did you think of them?
Club Med icon. It's funny you
Yep.
say a shirt because I don't like my first image was not him with a shirt. It was him
Oh,
without a
oh
shirt.
no, I know what you're gonna say.
It was always him without a shirt, and he always had that
With
little leather.
Yes, leather vest with the
No, the leather tie there. What do you call those?
well, no, he
The
had a
cravat.
he had a bolo tie
Right.
with a black leather vest, speedo, and cowboy boots. Okay, you're right. He would show up to the power walk like that. I'm like, come
Yeah,
on, Larry, you can't walk
that's
like
my
that.
image. That's
Yeah,
my image.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
burned.
remember, but wasn't there a time that we all kind of like dressed up like Uncle Larry? I remember doing this with Gus and maybe a bunch of us. We all did the look.
Well, I would have if I had all those things, but I didn't come to Club Med with a speedo or cowboy boots
We
or bolo
improvised.
tie.
We had a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
stuff in the costume,
Okay.
but I always remember that the hand elbow to chest slap. You know that one.
Wait,
It's
what's
kind of
that?
hard to.
What is
It's
that
kind of
one?
hard to
But
explain.
this was a greeting that you did with him, or?
He used to always do this. It was like
Oh yes,
a
yes, yes,
slap.
yes.
It
Okay,
used to go from slap to elbow to
yes,
chest, like a.
yeah,
Like,
yes, yes. I mean, he would wear that outfit. I remember Roxanne doing water aerobics in the pool, and he would stand on the edge of the pool doing the moves with her, in the speedo. Okay, cowboy boots. Okay,
yeah.
what a character!
He
Yeah,
was,
he just added to that great season.
no, for sure. He
And
was, yeah.
you were in archery. You were right by the hockey rink, so we would I'd see you in the afternoon because we'd have to go play
Yeah.
hockey
Yeah.
in the broiling
It's
sun.
funny. The archery field at Club Med was always like really tossed way in the back, so you don't get to see anybody. I became very good friends with ants and scorpions
Yeah,
and some of the
snakes. Yeah.
wildlife that was around there. It was like, this is boring here. Is anybody coming today? You could see them when they started walking. But yeah, when somebody came, it was always fun. But yeah, I saw some wildlife when I was there. Some tarantulas. It was crazy. It was interesting.
Do you have any stories out of there? Like, because we used to have like the picnic, we'd have the margarita ride, the margarita walk, the margarita kayak. I don't. Do you have any special
Well,
appropriate stories from?
I wish we had a margarita and archery thing, but I think that would have been too dangerous. So we didn't really have any
Yeah, that's
fun activities like that. But
true. It's the only sport where we arm the guests. So yeah, you're probably right. We shouldn't throw margaritas into that mix.
exactly, that would have been great.
Yeah,
But just put little tennis balls at the end of the arrows, you would have been fine.
that's
But
right.
no, there was not much going on in the archery field. I do remember having a geo party we did in the archery field at one point. That was really
That's
cool.
right.
So
Yeah,
that
there's
was
a nice.
quiet. The GMs couldn't really find it. Not all of the GMs knew where the archery field was, so it was a great place to have the geo party, which was after all the busy stuff.
Yeah, and you and I would also, when Vladimir, the chief of circus, would do the part of the circus show in that round amphitheater.
Yeah, yeah,
we would do that vaulting number, help out with the vaulting number.
yeah.
That was
Oh
fun
yeah,
too.
that was a lot of fun. I loved I had basically I've never done so much sports in my life until I got to Club Med, and I wasn't really one to just do all the partying. I really took advantage of everything. I did the scuba, I did the snorkeling, I did the wall climbing, I did the trapeze. I even did a lot of horseback riding. I loved it. I loved it. It was great. Beach volleyball with you, a bunch
Yeah.
of different great sports. Pétanque. Like I
I
would
also,
have never.
I also recall you, because we had Gus as the chief of animation, later became a chief of
Yeah.
village. I recall you didn't you do certain passages with him, or skits on stage, right? Like I
Oh yeah,
remember
lots
you
of them.
two
We
were.
we we did a lot of. I mean, I used to do a lot of the les jeux café. Do those entrances of the restaurants. Basically, Gus was kind of like my inspiration for all these other passages that I did throughout the seasons after that. But yeah, I love that part of the Club Med. I think that was my most memorable because those were the ones I really like. I basically like to entertain. That was my true passion, so still is. So any way or any method I could do it in, I would do it. And so yeah, we did a lot of combined acts together, chasing each other, stuff like that, and other things. The pool, I love the pool shows too. Those were always fun.
Yeah, we would do the fire and water one, right?
Fire and water, yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. I love those afternoon ones too. We used to do. Actually, this was one we did in Watuka. Was Super Dave? Remember that Super Dave
Oh,
Osborne?
yes.
We tried to create these ridiculous stunts, like I'm gonna jump over the pool today with a pole vault and stuff like that.
And
Like, okay,
it
and I
never
had
went well,
Fuji.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Fuji.
I had Fuji with me, taking pictures. And then was that and that superhero thing where we had the super GM. I love that. I love those little acts. Those were memorable.
Well, yeah, you were doing so much animation that your next season is in Ixtapa, 97, 98. You're animator with
Yeah.
the chief of village, Manuel Fernandez de la Rosa, correct?
Yeah. So this was actually for me when I had started, and my parents sent me to Club Med, and they're like, just do this for a year, and it'll be a great experience. So me technically after Playa, I was supposed to be done. And at that moment, since I was very much into now performing, I figured I'm gonna start doing this professionally. And Gus and I kind of had the same feeling because he wanted to go to LA and become an actor, and I'm like, I want to do this too. I want to go to New York. My dream was to be on Saturday Night Live. I want to do sketch comedy. I think this is my thing. I'm not great at stand-up comedy, but I think I could do improv comedy. I was good at it, and so I decided to move to New York. For that time, I met up with some some GMs actually that I met, making connections. So I went to hang out with some GMs there and used some of the connections, and I started working as a bartender. I was in a completely different vibe after my Club Med experience. And after a while, the money started running out, and the work was getting heavier, and it was I was in an apartment, and then it wasn't great. I had a crazy roommate, whatever, a bunch of stuff that I'm like, okay, I don't know, should I go back to Montreal? And then at this moment, I get the call from Club Med saying, "Hey, do you wanna come back?" I'm like, you know what, I'm not sure I want to come back, but unless it's as an animator. And I think a week later, they're like, okay, boom, gotcha. Ixtapa, animator. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm down. Let's do this. I go back to Montreal, pack up the bags, get the ticket, and then move to Ixtapa, back to Club Med. And that was, yeah, it was was it a summer season? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you were there winter 97, 98, I believe.
Winter. So yeah, so
Yeah,
that's why I skipped that summer. The summer was in New York, of course.
that's right.
I didn't
Yeah.
do a winter in New York. It was a summer in New York. So yeah, so that then I went to Ixtapa, and as a different in a different position, which was again new to me, but this was it for me. I had everything prepared. I had a list of passages and acts and sketches that I wanted to perform there. I'm like, this is gonna be the best, and it was the best because this was my favorite geo position that I held at Club Med ever, and an amazing team. Manuel de la Rosa was just amazing because he was a huge fan of animation, and he inspired me too with a whole bunch of passages and crazy stuff that I would have never thought of. But it was great. And then we had Geronimo, which was the chief of sports slash entertainment, and I was part of that team. I had an amazing team. Sam, I can't forget Sam. He was my sound guy who had an amazing talent too. He was Canadian, and he used to do these great little like he'd be able to hum any song that you could imagine or any theme song. And we used to do these game shows where there was a jeu café where he would just hum a song and people would have to guess it. And we just like invented these activities and fun stuff. It was a blast.
Well, if the power went out, that's a pretty good idea to have a guy like that on the team, right?
Definitely, definitely. No,
And
that was a great season. Yeah.
And right away, I see that, and from that season, they put you on the stage for chief of animation, which is in Pompadour, correct?
Right. So at this point, I think that I had finally found my niche. You know how I guess every chief of the village wants to build his own team that he can keep close, like at least his CDS, so he can. And I was like, okay, that's it. Manuel is my guy. We're gonna travel the world together. You know, with me, Geronimo. It was an amazing team. Then he's the one who sent me to Pompadour for this stage, which again, a crazy experience. Packed up my stuff, went to Paris, took a train through Limoges all the way to Pompadour, and now I'm like, okay, I'm in the den here. These guys are champs. But the stage of animation was something I had never experienced before, and I had never heard of happen again, because I have heard of stages where you focus on your field, but this was not just my field. This was every field in the entertainment. So there was, I'm just gonna shoot a random number there, but I'm thinking there was 20 sound engineers that came for that stage, and 20 choreographers that came for their stage, 20 costume designers, 20 set designers, 20 light engineers, and 20 chefs d'animation. And this was that season, or at least that little time that we were there. I think it was about a couple months. I mean, you had the best of all the club meds around the world were all there at the same time. So that was insane. And because they train you as a chef de service, chef d'animation, they want you to be familiar with every position. It's kind of hard to tell somebody in deco how to do this if you have no idea how to paint a wall. So they train you in all of these little departments, which again was a great school for me. I learned so much. This was hosted by Stéphane Joly, which again, amazing character. There's so many important people that I met throughout this journey of Club Med.
And then from your stage, you go to Punta Cana, summer '98, as chief of animation, but you had a little hiccup there. I think you had someone named George visit you, Hurricane George, not GM George, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
What was
but
that like?
that was kind of towards the end of the season, because
okay, good.
yeah, because we were, usually the hurricane season starts around the September, I believe, and I think that's when it was, somewhere around there. But yeah, that was a great season as well, because as my first season now as chef d'animation, chief of the village was Thierry Le Gallic. Again, good time, good season. And now I could put together all the shows that we created during that stage. And yeah, I did. I kept doing my animation and my passages. And then eventually, yes, I believe that was the year of the World Cup, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, I think so. Is that when France won in '98?
When France won, yeah. One of the set designer had grabbed a windsurf board and went all the way to that, that boat that's crashed in Punta Cana there.
Yeah.
And he laid this giant French flag right on the boat.
Oh, really?
You could see it from the beach. It was insane. that was that. And then later on, when the hurricanes started coming, yes, so we closed, the season ended a little bit shorter than expected. But then again, we had these crazies going, look, okay, I'm going to go surfing now. And because the water was just wild and these guys went surfing like crazy. If there was kite surfing at the time, they would have done it. But like everybody was like, these guys are crazy. But I remember doing that, setting it up where we had to throw all the beach chairs into the pool so that they don't blow away and tie everything down. It was just it was kind of hectic, but I was able to leave right before flights to Montreal, I guess, got released earlier, so we were able to leave, and I missed the worst parts. Thank God. But I felt really bad for those who did stay because it was really, really brutal. I really left like a day before the real bad winds started kicking in.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but like you said, this was essentially near the end of your season, right?
It was closer to the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had
Okay.
yeah
And you set
we
off
had
for Playa with Chief Animations, CDV Musa Dib. And
yes.
this is the season where you thought, this is probably my last season. And
Yeah.
and then I think at one point I'd met you in Montreal because I was working for Concordia, but then you moved out to
Right.
Vancouver to study acting for film and TV, correct?
Yes. So I decided to pursue it there when I was in Punta Cana. I had met my girlfriend at the time, Kat, and we did Playa together, and then she was from Vancouver, and she kind of like she encouraged me to pursue it. So after that season, we went to Montreal. I actually performed at the Just for Laughs festival. I did all of my crazy acts live, like as a almost like a busker, but it was kind of like part of the festival where you do this walking path, and I kind of tried to bring all these people during this in this little section of the festival. And I used to do all my magic acts and stuff like that, juggling and fun tricks. And then I decided to move to Vancouver and went to the Vancouver Film School. And I said, I'm gonna just start doing this, professionally. If it's gonna be too hard to do in the States as a Canadian, might as well just keep it in Canada and go to the Canadian Hollywood, basically.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
which is Vancouver, right? So many shows, American shows shot in Vancouver. So
Exactly. So that was at the time, and it was fun, because again, another great lesson of life, because I went in there as a comedian and improv comedy, and I'm doing all these very physical comedy with my face and doing these Jim Carrey characters and stuff like that. And then in that school, they basically broke me. It's like they're like, okay, Emmanuel, we know, okay, you're funny. Now we want to know if you can cry. I'm like,
oh
all right.
boy.
And so they really got more of that dramatic effect on for me on the acting, because I was very big and project. I was more like theater actor, and when you do film and television, it's like the one guy that's sitting in the back of the room. Well, he's right up in your face when you're doing film, right? So every little tick, every little muscle, facial muscle moves, they stand out and they're very noticeable. So I had to keep it a little bit more subtle, and that's kind of where I guess, mastered my acting skills, if you will.
Okay. And then, okay, so I do recall. So I think you got a job as a tour guide, set up your own company as a tour guide, and then you met I believe you met your wife on one of these tours. Am
Yeah,
I right or wrong?
that's right. So me, as I continued after Vancouver, I became an actor. I had an agent. I did some auditions. I performed in TV shows and film and stuff like that. I after 9/11, the film business had completely died. So I needed to move back to Montreal. So I went back to Montreal, pursued the acting career while working again the family business, which is the retail clothing. Did a little bit of that, and then I got this job from an ex GO GA. I think you know
Oh,
probably
yes. Yes.
Glenda.
Yeah.
She worked in this language school, which was right next to you at the Concordia, next to the
That's right.
Faubourg.
Yeah.
And they needed an activities coordinator. And GA is like, this is basically like being a GO, but in Montreal. I'm like, really? Okay. And so I joined and worked for this tour company that was based out of Toronto. That this is what they did. They just organized these activities for these international students who would come to learn French or English. And I was basically in charge of organizing them a calendar of activities, which was a lot of extracurricular, museums, go to a karaoke night or bowling, and on the weekends, tours. Toronto, Niagara Falls, Ottawa, Quebec City. So I had to become basically a tour guide, which in reality was basically like an actor playing the role of a tour guide, because it's easy. You just learn the script, learn the history, here's what to talk about, make it entertaining. And that's what I did for 7 years as a tour guide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
I did it. I did it for 3 years with them, and then left a little bit, got married, came back on with my own tour operating company, still working with the school. And yeah, we did a lot of traveling and met again a lot of great people from all over the world. So yeah, fun
yeah. And
times.
then fast forward to 2013, you go back to Club Med in Punta Cana for the summer of 2013 with Polyvalent Innovation with Eduardo Rojas, Chief of Village. What was that like?
So that was quite an experience because I had after I met my wife, I've just been talking about Club Med this whole time, and she's like, "I want to see this. I want to see this." So we actually went on we did a trip to Florida, and we spent a weekend at the village in Sandpiper, and she loved this. She's like, "Man, you worked in here?" I'm like, "Yeah, this was Club Med." And she was starting to get fed up of the winters in Canada. So
Yeah.
was I. And so we're like, you know what? I think that if I wanted to come back to Club Med, we could probably do it. So I got in touch again with GA, and I'm like, what do you think? How do I get back into this? Like, you have to call Chris Keeley, Hammer. And I'm like, all right. Oh, and also I had met, it was so weird at that moment because I was flying back and forth to Colombia because my wife is from there. And I met on the plane Handel,
Oh, really?
Duplessis, right? I had never worked with him, but I knew about him, and we happened to be sitting next to each other on the plane. I'm like,
No. Are you
yeah,
serious?
because I did a flight from Medellin to Miami, and then Miami to Montreal, and I met him on that flight from Miami to Montreal. We're talking about this, and again, it just got me. I'm like, this is the time. Maybe it's why not? We just go back. At least I could perform all the time. I don't have to do an audition. I could just get on
Yeah.
stage and do my stuff again. And that's what I did. And I met up with Chris, and we talked about it. And yeah, we said like, but listen, I'm married now. I don't know. Is there any way we could come with my wife? She has hotel management skills, so she could definitely be good at anywhere in the reception area or anything like that. And then we got our first contract to go to Punta Cana, and I was really hoping I'm gonna do a different village this time, but again I went back to Punta Cana for the third time. Uh,
But it had changed somewhat, right? You had that nice, I can't, what do they call that nice circus school there now? Was it there at the time?
yeah, it,
Okay.
it was about to be built, so this
Okay.
was about a year before.
Okay.
Uh, but the village was definitely different than what I remembered, because I remember all the action being pretty central, everything near the theater. But now there's restaurants all over, so the passage doesn't work as well because now you got to dress up, run to one restaurant, do your passage, then run across the village to get to the other restaurant. It was much harder to do these entertainment passages in that such a big village, uh, but it was fun.
You're out of breath a bit there, like not like the old days, right?
No, yeah, well, I did remember the shower when I used to do this trip where I used to come out in the
Yeah. Oh,
foam with
yeah.
the shower. I'm like, where's the plumber?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I did that, but during my run from one restaurant to the other, the foam had completely dried up, and I'm like, I have my sponge with me trying to rejuvenate. And by the time I got to the other restaurant, I'm like, the foam is almost gone. So I like, like this is not working. Maybe I have a chance to run back to my room and do that, because it was just everything was so far apart. So the crowd, basically the audience, was kind of more spread out on my second or my third trip to Punta Cana, basically.
And meanwhile, your wife was in a nice, breezy, shaded reception area, I'm guessing, right? While you
Yeah,
were,
well, actually, she had started in the reception, and it wasn't her element. They decided to put her in the tiara, which was the five trident reception, and there she was really. It was a great position for her. She loved it there because it was kind of like separated from the village because you deal with only the GMs that are just staying in that area. So it's kind of like the VIP section for for GMs, I guess.
then you go to Columbus, where I spent 2.5 years. Now, what would you think of the accommodations there? It must have been nice, right?
Oh, well, it was better than Punta. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah.
I'll give you
I hope
that.
so. I hope so. Okay.
Because Punta Cana, that was the one thing that hadn't changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Rooms, the rooms were exactly the same, just a little bit slightly smaller because of the layers of paint that they added over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
but uh, but everything was pretty much the same. But Columbus was something that I hadn't done, so I was very excited to finally do a village that I had never done. I remember getting there obviously before everybody opened. So there was maybe 10 geos in the whole village, and that
What was it? What was it closed for again? I can't recall. Like around that, was it
I
closed
think that at
for
that time
her?
they were closing for hurricane seasons.
Oh,
That's it.
okay.
They were, yeah,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Sorry.
yeah. So when we came, we were basically we came to open the village, and there was just us, just the chef de service and the chef de village. There was maybe 10 of us. And when you have 10 people in a village that size, you kind of get this little creepy feeling that you're like, I feel like I'm all alone here. Like there's nobody around here right now. And it was kind of weird because I had never done that. And I remember getting there and I'm like, I'm gonna go take a little little, dip in the ocean, and I'm swimming there and I'm like, I can't. There's no, like, if the current were to take me away, nobody would know right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no chair, but there's not even footprints on the sand. I'm like, I gotta get back to the shore. This is crazy. But
Eaten, or you're eaten by a pack of wild iguanas. Okay.
yeah, or that, or a hammerhead shark. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's so
yes.
many. But yeah, that was a good time too. Yeah.
And now you've gone into the family business, I hear, right? Like
Yeah.
because you
So
have branches in Montreal and Florida, correct?
correct. So I mean, this was happening while I was still there. When I came on my second trip to Club Med, we were actually considering selling some of our products in the Club Med boutique in Punta Cana. We had possibilities of maybe opening a store in the Club Med, and but I think they were really stuck on that company that did their 45 shirts or something like that. I can't remember the name of the brand. But yeah, we did that. We over the years, my father started this business when I was born. That's why he named it after me. It's called Emmanuel Menswear now. And over the years, we basically made our own collection. So now we make our own shirts. We make our own suits, blazers, ties, and bow ties. That's kind of where it went. We had a couple of stores in Montreal, and then again we had to do another escape of Canada. We're like, we have to figure out how can we get out of here again, and we just got a golden opportunity to open a store in Central Florida, which is somewhere we loved to be, my wife and I. And that my in-laws also from Colombia used to come like once or twice a year, and it was a perfect central spot because it was exactly between Medellin and Montreal. It was a 3-hour flight in both ways. So it was a great place to. And obviously, this is after I had my son in 2014, and since then, there we are.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Nice.
Thank
And
you.
during your, we talked about a lot of the villages you worked at. We mentioned a lot of names, but I don't want to leave anyone out. Is there anyone we haven't mentioned that you enjoyed working with? Like, I don't want to leave
Well,
anyone out.
I had some great roommates over the years, and I mean, definitely Tim is memorable to me. I mean, this guy taught me so much stuff. Just recently, we touched base again, and because he actually taught me how to play chess, which was something really cool.
Was this
And
Tim from Playa? Sorry, Emmanuel.
yeah,
Tim.
yeah,
Oh,
Tim. Well,
oh,
yeah,
love Tim. Oh
he's
man.
amazing.
Yeah.
Such a great guy. Oh my God, heart of gold.
Biggest calves you've ever seen, people. They're not calves, they're cows. And he had a silver surfer. His calf was so big, he put the
Yeah,
silver surfer on his calf.
absolutely.
Great guy.
And we had our room was kind of like a hangout because in Playa we had the two rooms and the bathroom was the central area, and
Yes,
we
yes.
we turned our bathroom into this total living room. We had the little couches, we had our little bar set up. We started putting some posters up, and people would just come hang out in our bathroom basically. But it was not really, it was a bigger space than the actual room, so this was a really cool hangout. And we had some really good times over there. So I have this definite memory of hanging out with Tim there. And then I also had a great roommate when I was in Ixtapa. And now this guy, I never got back in touch with him. I don't know what happened. Where is he? His name was Jay or Jerome. But, I try to search him, but there's many Jerome Bakers in the world, so it's kind of hard to track him down. But yeah, guy from Texas, amazing. He was a snorkeling geo and water ski before that in Martinique. I don't know if you know him, or
I think
maybe
so.
you.
I think I might have worked
Yeah,
with him in Martinique. Yeah, sounds
possibly.
familiar.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to him. So but that also great experience. We had really good friendship at the time, and then when I left, because I kind of left abruptly because I was sent to the stage. But when I came back from the stage, everybody was gone. It was, some weird stuff happened while I was gone, and the whole team was gone. Yeah.
Right. Now that you live in Paradise, I'm wondering if it's possible there's anything you miss about Club Med. So I'll ask anyway. But if you don't miss anything, because you're lucky to leave Montreal for
Yeah.
Florida, so I guess you're not going to say the weather. So I don't know. But do you miss anything like looking back?
To be honest, right now living here is just almost like a dream come true. Every time we do go on a little vacation, we just can't wait to come back. Whereas when I lived in Montreal, it was like, oh God, we got to go back. I don't want to go back. But here, since we've been here, it's been great. But yeah, I do miss the camaraderie, the friendships, the entertainment. I love being on stage. This is, yeah. There's some kind of things that I miss. I still miss performing, which I will probably get back into eventually. They have a bunch of theme parks here, Universal Studios, so I could always do there's never an age limit for performing arts.
That's right. You can make anyone laugh at any age, right?
I would hope so. Yeah, I think the world needs it now.
I guess there's nothing better than you mentioned you had a boy, right? I guess there's nothing better than being able to make your kid laugh, right?
Definitely. No, that's my main audience now for
Yeah.
sure.
Am I
But he makes
forgetting?
me laugh. He actually
Oh,
makes me laugh more now.
oh, really? Oh, good. Okay. We need
Yeah.
more laughter, people.
Oh, definitely.
Since you've been so kind with time, I don't want to let you go without making sure, like, if there's something you wanted to say or a story we forgot, or did I forget to ask you something, or did we cover a lot of it?
I think that's most of it. I mean, there's a lot of great memories, of, these different passages, which by listening to your shows and meeting even some geos that I hadn't heard about, it was funny to hear the similarities in some of the entertainment. I'm like, man, I used to do that one. Climbing the floor in the restaurant. That was just a great fun thing. But I'll never forget the one that Manuel de la Rosa had suggested to me, which was the gardener. I don't know if you had ever seen anyone or me do that, but I used to dress up as a local, or at the time a PS or GE, and I would be basically, would put on that uniform, had a little mustache, put a name tag that said Jose on it, and I would go to the beach and I would pretend to prepare a garden on the beach.
Oh, never
so I
seen
would,
that one. Okay.
so I had these people tanning there, and I'm there, and I'm starting making these little mounds. I put, like, did rows of of sand, and then like little pyramids. And then I would, I had a little bag and seeds, and I would start planting seeds and people were like, "What the hell is going on over there? What is this guy doing?" And I'm there planting, and anytime somebody wanted to find out about it, they would come talk to me, but I would just answer them in Spanish, so they would just give up. Okay, like, okay, I don't know what he's talking about. And then I would plant these seeds, and then I would put a caution tape, fence the whole thing area around it, and then I would leave it like that. And then the next day, that was the trick. Is that at night I would come in, while everyone was in the theater, I would come in and I would start planting little leaves, and little green things coming out, like little stems, so that when the next day you come back, they're like, "Oh my God, something's actually growing." And then I would come and I start watering them, start taking care of the plants. And this was a passage that basically lasted like 3-4 days. Every day, the leaves would get a little bit bigger until on the final day, I would start pulling out, tomatoes and carrots and potatoes out of the sand.
Damn.
And these people are like, the GMs are like, what is going on here? Like, this is the magic, the kind of magic. And then I would basically fill up this basket of vegetables, and then I would sit in front of the restaurant and I would sell them for the bar tickets.
Lord, that's commitment. No, I never heard of this one.
Want to buy a beach tomato, a beach carrot? It was that was a fun time. It was very committed because there was a lot of work involved.
3-day passage. Nice.
Yeah, basically.
Well, man, Emmanuel, thank you so much for sharing these stories with us here today, man. This has been so good to hear your voice again and catch up with you. Thanks again.
Definitely, it's good. I know I do a lot of talking, but it just it brings me back, and sometimes I go off.
But no, that's what we're here for, brother. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
But I really love what you do. I think it's awesome. Keep it going. It's great to hear from geos. Sometimes some that I knew, and I'm like, wow, I forgot about this guy or this girl, and I love what you do. It's awesome, man. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say. Well, everyone, that was from Montreal, now living in the Sunshine State, lucky son of a gun, Emmanuel Azuelos. And we will see you all next week. And here's what we say. Goodbye, Emmanuel.
Thanks a lot, guys. Merci.